So do you think it's hope for people who lose that sensual edge, like in marriages when the kids come along and the job is stressful?
There's hope if there's commitment,
Mm,
if they're willing to commit to themselves and the relationship.
yeah. I still think that people who are married are not even as vulnerable with each other as they need to be. You know, I feel like people get married before they even reach that part, that that stage. You know,
Mm.
and they don't realize they were never there to begin with.
Mm.
You know.
I feel they reach a certain point because once you get married, it's like you fall into these roles.
Yeah.
And then you start playing a role. You start playing housewife, you start playing husband, you start playing mother. And those parts of you before you got married kind of get pushed right back.
Mhm.
And you there tends to be a lot of sacrifices in marriage.
Yeah.
Sacrificing your own needs, sacrificing your dreams, sacrificing, being true to yourself, what your real deep desires are. And
Yeah. And this is why part of me, was real hesitant about having children. Never had children because I saw how that, it creates resentment. You know, when people want to do what they want to do, but they can't because they have children, and then you have a husband or a wife who won't support your individualism. That
mm,
creates resentment as well. I just felt like, I don't want to be in a position where there's this underlining resentment. But not to say I think people can actually be married and be supportive of the individualism, but I just think that there needs to be a a restructure in relationships or how we look at it, you know, because I think it's hard for two people to grow together if they're not supporting the individual growth, and I think we never most people don't realize that, and it's about just getting to this end destination. We're married, we're here, we did it. Now what? Kind of
mm,
like, so it doesn't stop there. Nothing should stop. Nothing stops anywhere. Everything keeps moving. So I feel like not only with marriage or relationships or whatever it may be, I feel like, I have an understanding that there needs to be movement within whatever you're creating, you know. And when there's lack of movement, there's suffering, no matter how you break it down,
mm,
you know. But I think it's sad when I walk around and I see all these people. I can look at couples and I can tell whether they're going deeper or not. I can see it and feel it in the energy. I see all these closed women, all these closed men, and that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, to help open people up who are ready to take that plunge. Because it could be a scary plunge to take, you know.
mm.
And I think it's beautiful what you do, helping people open up. Because I mean, people need that. So I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Hmm. Definitely. I think that it's real important to me to bring forth the sacred nature of sexuality, of everything really, but you know, sexuality has been tainted so much for so long,
Mm.
you know.
Even spiritually,
Yeah.
like Tantra.
Oh,
That's
not
tainted.
using that word anymore.
That's lost
Hmm.
its all credibility
Yeah.
and its sacredness, and it's being misinterpreted, lost in translation, really.
Yeah.
With but at the same time, I wrote a blog on this.
Hmm.
Was I felt sacredness is also an intention. So
Hmm.
it might not be, candles lit and, you've got incense burning, you've got all these things, and you're not in yab yum position having sex and,
Right.
music going. But it doesn't mean it's still not sacred. Like, I still find for me that if I wanted to go and have a quickie,
Mm-hmm.
that's still sacred. And for me, sacred isn't one form of sex. It's not a particular style or form or thing.
Right, like you said, it's about the intention. Because I've discussed this as well. You know, you may want to have sex with your partner and have a quickie, or be just real quick and rough, even a little,
Mm.
a little more rough. Not beating, hurting people, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if there's love there, that's the foundation that needs to be in place, and that's what um, defines it or makes it sacred.
Mm.
So I agree. And I think a lot of times, not only when we talk about sexuality, I think when we talk about spirituality, I think people get too caught up on the position or the ritual of things,
Mm.
and they forget about, but the intention defines everything. It's not really about the ritual. It's about the intention behind the ritual. And you don't have to stick to one ritual.
Mm.
You know, there are infinite ways to create with an intention to do the same thing. And I think some people get stuck on these cookie cutter ways of being, whether it's sexual, whether it's spiritual,
Mm.
whatever it may be. And I never fell for that trap. You know, I've always allowed myself to be authentically who I am in every aspect. If I want to cuss and talk shit, I'm going to cuss and talk shit. If I want to eat a fast food sandwich today, that doesn't make me less spiritual. Um, you know, if I want to get freaky and watch porn with my girl, that doesn't make it less sacred. If we really truly love each other and that's what we want to do,
Mm.
you know. So I think that until we can truly grasp the understanding that the intention is what makes something sacred and what brings forth the loving connection as opposed to what's being done. Because there are a lot of
Mm.
people that do rituals and do things, and I can feel when they do it, the intention of the heart space and love isn't there. So they think because they're acting out something that it has the sacred nature, when in actuality it doesn't, because you're not injecting it with the sacred heart space, with that feeling, with the right intention. I shouldn't say right intention. I don't like to use right or wrong, but the pure intention rather.
Mm. Yeah, because I mean, you could have all the hoo ha around you and do, yab yum and all this, but if you're completely disconnected,
Mm-hmm.
not present, you know, and your heart's not in it, then it's a different outcome than it would be if you were, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. So let me ask you, what do you think is, in the lamest terms, a way that people can start to get in tune with that pure intention? Like if someone asks you, how can I get in tune with this pure intention? What would you tell them? I just put you on the spot, huh?
Yeah. um, to be honest, what I tell my
Mm,
clients,
okay.
the beginning of all things
Mm-hmm.
is stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel learning, practicing, becoming meditation, being, because out of stillness is arise. Everything arises from stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for me, stillness.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, ooh, you said the word honest. I think that that's really something that needs to be looked at and embraced, because once you get to stillness, the real stuff comes to the surface. So you got to be honest about what you're feeling. And I think a lot of people are not honest with what comes up. So if you're not honest with what comes up, you can't clear it until you admit that it's there.
Mm.
And then when you admit that it's there, and you can share what you're feeling within that vulnerable state, that's what helps the process of the blossoming to where you can go deeper and clear out things that need to be let go of so you can clear the space so the purity within yourself can come more to the surface. I think that's important.
But you know what I find is everyone's different.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one way. Because what worked for me was stillness.
Right.
I had the ability to connect to stillness quite quickly from young.
Okay.
Even though I still had a lot of noise, but I still was able just to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me also years and years of practice to the point where you don't get random thoughts anymore. They're not uncontrollable. You can maintain focus one thought for 10 minutes if need be. But that works for me, but it might not work for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it's about finding what works for you.
Yeah. That's just like what I'm recently discovering about doing the energy work, that some of my clients may need me to put my hand on their heart. They need touch. I'm really realizing that. So some of my clients may need me to touch them. Some of them may not need me to touch them. So, yeah, I agree. Everybody is different. But I think for us to find out, what works for us, we have to be honest about how we feel when we're doing things. We have to be honest, about what we're comfortable with and what we're not, you know. And I think, and sharing that honesty, will lead to understanding more about yourself, understanding what you need. I think being honest with yourself is the first step to discovering what you need. You can't find it if you're not honest with yourself.
It's owning it.